The Sony a7R, a full-frame 36 megapixel sensor in a small light camera. Here's a trend. It's the third full-frame camera from Sony in the last 12 months. But this is the first mirrorless, as well as the smallest and lightest full-frame interchangeable lens camera. Clearly, this is a drool-worthy device, and it's already receiving raves and Best of 2013 commendations. There's a twin sister camera, the A7, which is available with a kit 28 to 70mm, but that lens isn't available on its own, nor kitted with the A7R. Sony has promised 5 lenses to arrive shortly. 2 primes are available for this review, a 35 and 55mm. The A7R's magnesium alloy body is weather sealed, as are the lenses. In size and weight, it's about half that of a traditional DSLR, but 25% more than the EXIF. What does full frame and 36 megapixels represent? This sensor is as large as a frame of 35mm film, 50% larger than the APS-C size found in most DSLRs. This sensor size is found only in Pro camera models. And 36 megapixels means that I can take an image from the balcony with a 55mm lens, crop it, and still have a sharp image. Brilliant. Visually, the A7 and A7R are twins, but there are 3 significant differences. Price, megapixels, and 3, the A7R's sensor has no optical low-pass filter. I'll get to that in a minute. It's mirrorless, which means the viewfinder isn't optical. Instead, there's an impressive 2.4 million dot OLED electronic viewfinder. The image is clear, bright, and unlike optical viewfinders available when you're shooting video. Purists may balk, but I'm sold. The viewfinder is in line with the lens, a nice touch. There are several display variants to provide you with a heads-up display while shooting. I do wish the level and histogram were not isolated on screens by themselves. The articulated LCD is not a touchscreen. The display switches from the LCD to the viewfinder automatically when it senses your eye approach. You can change this setting in the menu. However, when a snowflake fooled the sensor into switching to the viewfinder while trying to get an overhead crowd shot, I really wanted an easier way to manually switch from viewfinder to LCD. The A7 and A7R are compatible with the E-series lenses available for Sony's NEX cameras. Up to now, those lenses were designed for the smaller APS-C sensor. These new FE series lenses are full frame as required for the A7. These non-stabilized primes are Zeiss branded. You can use the APS-C lenses with this camera, and the menu has settings to accommodate. Previous E-series lenses have a crop factor of 1.5. Here's the new full-frame FE35 and the older cropped E35. While video resolution remains the same, if you shoot stills with a cropped lens, you'll be shooting at 15 megapixels. By default, the A7R switches automatically based on the lens, but you can override it with the off setting. If you use the off setting, you'll be seeing a black vignette around your image or video. But here's the thing. If you're in the market for the A7R, you may not want Sony lenses at all. You'll want an adapter, and while Sony has released adapters for their own lenses, there are many third-party adapters available to use your high-quality Leica, Voigtlander, or other older classic lenses. Just check FLICKR and you'll see those pairings. That said, you'll be dealing with manual exposure and focus with those lenses. There are also 4 smaller differences. The A7R does not have an electronic front curtain shutter. The A7 does. With 2 physical curtains, it makes the shutter system both louder and more like a traditional SLR with 2 physical curtains to open and close the shutter. The hybrid focus system on the A7 includes 117-point phase detection, in addition to the 25-point contrast detection used in the A7R. The burst mode on the A7R is slightly slower, 1.5 frames per second to 2.5 on the A7, and the flash sync is 160 compared to 250 on the A7. There are lots of dials for manual mode shooters. There's the mode selector, the front dial for aperture, the back dial for shutter speed. the control wheel for ISO with click points to select white balance, drive mode, and display options. If you're in aperture or shutter priority, an exposure value adjustment dial on the side. You can use auto ISO combined with manual shutter and exposure, which I found a useful feature. The layout works, but I did learn to be careful, as settings sometimes changed accidentally. There are multiple focus options. The function button opens an on-screen control panel. This is the LCD display, but it's the same as the viewfinder. Very handy. You can make nearly all your adjustments without moving your eye from the viewfinder, although it does require a little bit of getting used to the position of the buttons and dial. 4 focus modes: auto single, continuous, manual, dynamic manual. There's face and smile detection, but they're selected on the menu. I would include them here. And highly customizable focus areas, including 3 flexible spot sizes moved using the dial as a cursor control. For manual focus, there's an expanded view and multiple peaking options. There are 3 exposure metering modes. The meter is displayed at the bottom of the screen. Auto settings frequently underexposed. I found the histogram a better indicator. There are 3 customizable buttons. I set one to switch smile face detect on and off, but was disappointed that I couldn't set the C2 button to switch LCD and viewfinder. In addition to standard drive modes, there are 4 highly customizable bracket modes, continuous and manual, including 3 and 5 bracket exposure with adjustable EV ranges, and white balance. Nice, a real pro feature. The A7R's menu system is clear. The dual-level navigation hierarchy of 6 categories, each with multiple subpages, makes it easy to get around. I preferred the 55 to the 35, and note the unusual lens hood for the 35. Most Sony E-series lenses have a 49mm diameter, and so do these, making it easy to interchange ND or other filters. The 55 opens to 1.8, the 35 to 2.8. The closest focusing distance on the 55 is 50 centimeters, the 35 is 35. I found that slightly limiting. That said, these are quality lenses that provide detailed, clear, sharp images. RAW files are in 14-bit, providing lots of detailed information for post-processing software. Removing the optical low pass or anti-aliasing filter from the A7R sensor also increases detail and sharpness, and higher resolution sensors may be less susceptible to the moire or color impurities that this filter is designed to eliminate. While this is a quality camera in every way, it's not fast. It's slow to start, particularly after a battery change. Slow to focus, slow burst speed, slow to save. Even with a memory card rated at over 90 megabytes per second, I waited much longer than I'd like after taking multiple shots in succession. Shutter speed ranges from bulb to 1/8000th. The ISO range is wide, 50 to 25.6K. Grain starts to appear in RAW files at 1600, but with 36 megapixel images, you'd have to be printing huge posters to notice it. Many of the A7R's attributes, the simpler autofocus, the slower burst, and the lack of low-pass filter, seem designed less for field work and more for the kinds of detailed and high-quality images usually created in a controlled studio situation. Jeff has offered up his studio to help me evaluate that. In the studio, burst mode and focus speed aren't usually issues. Afterwards, I asked Jeff for his impressions of the A7R.
How much lighter it felt. Easy to hold with one hand. I like a little bit of a larger grip over here. I'm not a fan of electronic viewfinders, but this is the best one I've ever used.
Jeff didn't feel the physical curtains were noisy, just slow.
What appeared to be a bit of a shutter lag when I pressed the shutter button down. And I don't think it actually was, but I did find that a little bit disconcerting. There was just like a little bit too long that it was blacked out. I like the ability to move the focus point. I think I would have liked some kind of a joystick control in the back here so I could actively move the focus point while I had it up on my eye, articulating both this way and that way. Be nice if you're shooting something down low, or if you're shooting above your head like this. Now that's something I wish I had on my camera.
When Jeff finished processing the photos, he was happy with the color, sharpness, and detail. This image is cropped to less than half its original resolution, but still a very usable 18 megapixels. It took time to get used to some of the features and capabilities. My first few shoots were not nearly as successful as I'd liked. It's not that the photos didn't work, they just weren't as crisp or detailed as I'd hoped. This camera does have a learning curve as you become more aware of specific capabilities, controls, and the interplay of the various settings. That applies both to exposure metering and settings, ISO, shutter, and aperture, but also focus. I've learned to be more careful about selecting an aperture to achieve the appropriate bokeh instead of just cranking it wide open when I want a defocused background. The A7R is making me a better photographer, bringing my awareness up several notches. This is the most functional movie mode on any Sony still camera. There's a mic input and headphone jack. The multi-interface shoe supports the optional XLR input. The HDMI out can be set to a clean feed for external monitoring and recording. The video button starts recording in the currently selected still mode, exactly what I expect. But if you use the dedicated movie mode, you can't use expanded focus. And pressing the shutter in movie mode provokes an error screen. Why not start recording or enable stills while shooting video? Movie ISO ranges from 200 to 25.6, including auto. Movie shutter ranges from 1/4 to 1/8,000th. I'd love to have a built-in ND filter. And with this sensor, it's a shame that 4K video recording isn't available. There are stereo mics, one on either side of the viewfinder. You'll want an external mic for anything serious, but for ambient sound, quality is very good and stereo separation is excellent.
Silent night, holy night, away like sheep, away like sheep. Through the town one morning I went, staggering through premonitions of my death.
The A7R is the first digital camera where I wanted a flash. There are so many cameras that offer excellent low light performance and flash photos look like, well, flash photos. Sony's HVL F60M is a good match, which clearly illustrated the value of a flash. It's not that the A7R isn't good in low light. I just felt that I was seeing compromises at the pixel level either from high ISO, slow shutter speed, or very shallow depth of field. Using the multi-interface shoe, camera and flash exchange a lot of data, so I didn't need to become a flash tech expert immediately after connecting the full-featured F60. I was very happy with the results. It rotates for portraits and swivels back nearly as far as forward. I experimented with the various bounce angles and diffusers, and using the control panel to turn the flash level down. And the flash unit includes a small LED light for video, with a diffuser. Nice. The A7R includes Sony's great firmware feature set for panoramas, HDR, digital zoom. There's a smile shutter, multiple creative styles, and an impressive collection of picture effects. It's nice to have them, but none of them are reasons to own this camera. In fact, I'd recommend that Sony remove all that are incompatible with RAW files. And if you like those filters and effects, get the RX100. Oh, one more thing. This is a Wi-Fi enabled smart camera, which includes the ability to create an ad hoc hotspot to send photos from the camera to a smartphone. That came in handy several times. And it supports Sony's smart camera apps, which add time-lapse and even more bracket functionality for a few dollars per app. I found battery life to be short, but there is an optional accessory grip that accommodates dual batteries. Some reviews have complained about the lack of a charger. My sample included a charger. But please, could there be a few gigs of onboard storage? Now that there's a full-frame model in each of Sony's lines, is the A7R the right one for you? It is if you have a collection of vintage lenses, or if you're looking for high quality and portability for travel. And it is if you're a careful, detail-oriented photographer who's happiest in manual mode. But with the exception of sports photographers, I can't think of anyone who'd be unhappy with this one. Although we might want to wait for Sony to round out its full-frame E-lens portfolio.